Okay, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Modern Woman podcast. It's a little bit different today.
It is.
We've only got two of us. Yeah. So Dan and myself, we're winging it today.
We are today, Nick.
Yeah. We're going to do more of a casual kind of a podcast today, a bit more lifestyle focused. Mm-hmm. So we're actually going to talk about a day in the life of the modern woman. What that looks like.
Yeah.
What are the things we can do to improve our day, to help us get through the day without crashing and burning.
Yeah.
And all the things in between, challenges, all that sort of thing.
Exactly.
So
I'm excited, Nick.
Yes. So let's get into it.
Yeah, let's jump into it. Well, I think we're always talking about in all of our podcasts and with our clients all of the time how much the modern woman has to do and how many directions she gets pulled in. Yeah. So it's enough to say how much we're all doing every day, but then the next step is actually giving women, I guess, the insight into how they can better support themselves. And that's, I guess, what we're doing every day with our clients, isn't it, Nick?
It is.
From a holistic perspective, we're looking at every sort of angle in their life and everything that they're doing and trying to optimize that for them individually, because this is also, everyone's different. Yeah. Everyone has a different routine that works for them, but it's just finding what works for you overall. So we're going to give a little bit of an insight into what we do.
Our
days individually. Not to say that this is the right way to do.
Well, no.
Anything.
No, and look, we have to promise we don't have children, so there's got to be that factor for mothers.
And we're definitely not perfect.
Well,
nice. All right.
Say.
Okay, Nick is. I'm not. But yeah, we just wanted it to be a bit of a casual chat to help women to understand that there's things that we can do to optimize our health overall and our well-being overall. And this can look different for everyone day to day.
Yeah, and as we bang on about every podcast, it is lifestyle is the basis. So today we're going to talk more about lifestyle, not so much about specific conditions. And, you know, bringing balance back to our day can definitely help when we do have some imbalance within our bodies or, you know, some underlying conditions that we're struggling with. So it definitely does help to drive us in a positive direction when we set our day up right.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Nick, I think it's only natural then if we sort of start with the start of a day.
Yeah.
So what a morning routine looks like, how it might look for you, how we can improve that, what might be some insights into imbalances around your morning routine. So, yeah, let's open the discussion around that.
Yeah. Right. So let's start with you, Dan.
With me. Awesome.
What do you do first? What's your morning routine?
And what's my morning routine? Well, I must admit I've always been a morning person. So I'm that person that people probably hate when they're like, I'm a morning person. I do. I get up and I get out of bed and I love my mornings.
They want to throw their coffee in your face.
Yes.
They're cold coffee.
I've got someone definitely nodding at me right now. So
the coffee drinker in the room.
But yeah, no, I honestly, Nick, I wake up. I don't really need an alarm. So some mornings I might, but to be honest, I don't wake to an alarm most mornings. I like to actually wake with the sunrise, and I'll go into a little bit about that as why, and also why that's really helped me individually with what I've gone through health-wise. So I like to wake with the sun rising. I like to do some form of exercise, whether it's just a walk, going for a run has been more recent for me, and I'm finding that's working really well for my routine. So that's typically what I start with. Soon after that, so I'll do that, come home, then get ready for my day. So it's just sort of, you know, shower, get ready for my day, have a nourishing breakfast always. I'm someone who definitely will have breakfast. I don't like to fast in the morning typically. And yeah, just start my day from there. So yeah, that's typically what mine looks like. What about you, Nick?
I'm similar, probably not quite as on point as yours.
I'm saying none of us are perfect.
No, that's true. That is true. I also am a morning person, have always been a morning person as well. So I'm generally up before the sun.
Yeah.
Just because I need to get my day started early, so I get everything, fit everything in. And I always train in the morning. Yeah. I have done, that's my whole training life. So I'm usually up at about 4. I do wake to an alarm, do not wake naturally at that time of the day. So I actually have 3 alarms that I
love
set.
that. Yeah.
So I'm usually up by the 3rd one.
Yep.
And I go and train. I go to the gym.
Yeah.
And then I come home and very similar, I have my shower, get myself ready. I don't eat breakfast straight away. And I've actually changed that in the last probably 6 months. I always used to eat straight after training.
Yep.
I now fast for about 4 or 5 hours after training, only because now, I'm moving into a different stage in my life. I'm getting a little bit older. So I'm not too old, but I'm getting a bit older.
Not.
And so I find that morning fast, I usually finish eating around about 7 o'clock at night, and then I don't usually eat my breakfast till around about 10 the next day. So I fast from training right up until till about 10 o'clock.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I find that works for me now. As I said, it never used to work that way, but I think that's part of it as we change, as our lifestyle changes. Maybe we, maybe have kids or we get older. Our routine should change with that to fit with what works. So, and I think we see that a lot in clinic too, don't we, Dan? Where we have people that have been doing something for a long time and it worked initially and now it's not, but they're still fighting it because that's what they have done in the past and it works, so they think it should still work.
That's right, Nick. Exactly. Yeah. I think, and I so agree with that. It's adapting to those changes, I think. So what worked for you maybe 10 years ago doesn't mean that it's going to work now. And I'm sure for women, whether now throw kids into the mix, a career change, maybe we're working earlier in the morning or later in the day, whatever that is, your routine has to fit around that as well. So you've got to make it work for you. And I love that, between us, we're both morning people, but our morning routine still even looks different. Yeah. So, and it is about finding what works for you. And I think there's definitely, from a fasting perspective, I think there's so many benefits to fasting. I think, and we always actually talk about this with our clients, that typically a good overnight fast, everyone should be doing regardless. And when I say good, pretty much a standard 12-hour fast. Yep. That's something that all of us should be aiming for. What I find is people are eating too late, close to bed. Sometimes people are snacking after dinner as well, and that's not really great for their circadian rhythm, digestion, all of those things. And then maybe sometimes people are waking up and they might be starting the day with a coffee or, some sort of breakfast that's not going to be, a nourishing meal to get them started for the day. So when I say that, macronutrient balance is probably, I think for breakfast for me, Nick, is the most important thing.
100%.
Isn't it?
Breakfast really is the most important meal of the day.
It is. And depending when that is, it doesn't mean if you have breakfast at 7 a.m. or 10 a.m., your first meal of the day is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. And I think we could probably go into that a little bit more because I think a lot of people do have inadequate breakfasts.
Yeah.
They're not getting the nutrition that they need. It's not a balanced breakfast. So they do the coffee and the piece of toast on the way out, running out the door. Or, so I think that really putting some thought into what you're having for breakfast is really important, particularly with your goals, whether that be more energy throughout the day, having clarity, thinking, clear thinking for your training goals, that sort of thing. Really, it's really important to think about what you're putting in your body first thing in the morning.
Absolutely, Nick. I think I talk about this all the time, and the term macro balance is something that it can be a little bit confusing, particularly for breakfast. I think sometimes because if we look at our classic breakfast meals, cereal, something like that, that's definitely not macro balanced.
No,
for the most part, there's no protein or fats in cereal realistically. So people are missing some really important macronutrients there and nutrients overall. So I find there's one thing that I'm always talking about is like a macro balanced smoothie.
Yep.
Because also too, I find people fall into a trap with smoothies. It's a convenient meal. I'm someone who has a smoothie every day for my breakfast, but I have to make sure that it's got the right balance for it to support me post-training and also to sustain me through the day. Yeah. So I know if in my smoothie I don't have enough good quality fats, what sort of protein am I putting in there? Am I balancing out the carbohydrates from maybe the fruit and veg that I'm adding? And what other nutrients and things I can add in there to really make it a complete meal? Yeah. And that's something that, I'm sure you do talk about as well with your clients.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm the same. I have a smoothie every day for breakfast. Yep. I have done for 10 years. I'm a creature of habit.
Yep.
But again, you have to be really mindful of what you're putting in your smoothie. And so many people do fruit. They do a big thing of fruit.
Yeah.
So, and again, and like you said, Dan, it's not macro balanced. It's not sustaining you for the, for a few hours or until lunchtime. Yep. So that's really important to really be mindful of what you're putting in your smoothie. And smoothies are great because they're convenient. So you can make your smoothie, run out the door and have it when you get to work, or, have everything chopped up and put in the fridge so you can just, stick it in the blender in the morning. So I think, taking into account the time factor as well in the morning. So some people don't have time to sit down and cook up a breakfast. So you have to adapt again to what your schedule looks like.
Yeah.
But yeah, making sure you're having your proteins and your fats and your carbohydrates is really important. So whether that be, eggs and sauteed vegetables, or whether that be, there are some decent, oatmeals and some good paleo cereals and things out there that are a lot better than the processed cereals. So that's a really important.
Absolutely. And I think with morning routines, Nick, what we classically see is there's probably two sorts of people in the morning, realistically. And on one side, we have the person that is probably a bit of a morning person like we are. But in saying that, what we see is people are also waking up already stressed, anxious, highly strung in the morning, in that period where it should be really setting yourself up for the day. And so I find that people that are waking with a lot of stress, I always question what are they doing before bed. So this goes back to then their nighttime routine, what's happening for them then, what's happening in their life overall, and where we can find some more calm in their morning. On the flip side, it's the people that literally don't want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of clients like that, that we definitely see, don't we, Nick?
We do. Yeah.
And it's a struggle. It's a struggle to wake up. It's that grogginess. I think that's a word that I always hear people say, Dannielle, I wake up in the morning and I feel groggy for 2-3 hours after waking up. I can't get going. I'm reaching for the 5th cup of coffee. I'm doing all of these things because my mornings just feel so sluggish. It's that sluggish feeling.
Yeah.
And that gives me a real insight, as I'm sure you would agree, Nick, is that our morning is actually when we should realistically not have the most energy, but we should feel that we're stepping into our day with enough energy. And coming to more of a, I guess if we look at our circadian rhythm clock and our biological clock there, cortisol, being that stress hormone, should actually be the highest in the morning. Within realistically 30 to 60 minutes of waking. So if you're not getting that cortisol rise, you're probably that person that's sitting in the camp of, I can't get out of bed.
I need my coffee.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that we try to convey in our consultations is you want to go with the natural flow of your body. So, and your circadian rhythm, that sort of thing. So if you're dragging yourself out of bed and you're not human till you've had a cup of coffee or 2 or even 3, then we have to really look further into that, because you should be able to have that natural energy. You shouldn't have to have something to actually get you there. So it's a matter of, again, and that's why we're talking about this, what you do throughout the day and your nighttime routine really sets you up for each day and your energy levels and that sort of thing. And there is so much you can do throughout your day so that you're not having to drag yourself out of bed in the morning and have those 2 cups of coffee before you even talk to anybody. So, and I think that's a really important thing to be able to go with your body's natural rhythms. And, I don't think it should matter how young you are, how old you are, what your lifestyle is, you can still find that natural energy without having to have stimulants that are counterproductive in the long run to your health anyway.
I agree, Nick, definitely. And I think if your morning routine can be such a good barometer for your health. So if you're someone who realistically in the past was someone who was waking up with energy and feeling good, and now you're not, that's for me always a sign of, okay, what's happened? What's been happening in the last few months or even the last few years that has now changed your natural circadian rhythm? And we've got to dig into that. And I say that too, Nick, from personal experience. And that's why I do what I do in my mornings, making sure I, wake with the sun rising and get that natural sunlight in the morning. I'm doing movement in the morning. I'm doing, things that support my natural cortisol rhythm and my cortisol rise, because I was previously someone who was waking up extremely fatigued. And that's unlike me. So that told me a little bit about what was going on. Obviously, being a nutritionist, I go ahead and investigate that.
Being nerds.
Yep. We look at, okay, why is that? And this is where I think as well, if you're someone who's sort of going, I don't know what's changed, but I know that I'm not feeling the way I should feel, absolutely. Get the support from a practitioner or a professional out there. And your morning routine is something that if you can start to optimize that will set you up for the whole day.
Yeah. And I think we need to bring it back, because there are morning people and there are night people, and that's one thing. But we always have to bring it back to the rhythm of our day and our bodies. And we are naturally supposed to be morning people. We get up with the sunrise. The cortisol is highest, as you said, Dan, in the morning, and that's because that's when we have our energy. I guess if we look previous times, and I'm definitely no expert on this, but, you get up, you do your hunting in the morning, in the afternoons it starts to ease off, and in the nighttime you're sort of sliding into that relaxation mode. So if you're flipped that, then we have to look at the reasons why. And if you're quite alert at night, and I know a lot of people that like to train in the evenings, they can't train in the mornings, but then they're training in the evenings and they're getting home, they're quite wired, then they're having to spend hours to calm down and relax so that they can get their cortisol levels down, so they can get that relaxation to get to sleep. And so then they're getting to bed really late, so then they're not getting enough sleep, so then the pattern continues. So it does come back to looking at what you're doing throughout the day and how you can move that around to actually get that natural flow.
Yeah, exactly right, Nick. Well, I think we've covered off on morning routines, haven't we?
Yeah. So we're running out the door to work or to the office in the next room.
Yeah.
And so then there's challenges around that we have to look at as well. So what are some of the things that we do come up against in our working day that we need to have a look at where we can find more balance there?
Yeah. Well, I guess, Nick, for particularly this year has been such a huge year for everyone that's transitioned to working from home, either, temporarily or permanently. I think one of the biggest challenges with working from home is separating your work life from your home life and personal life.
Yes.
And so that's where one of the first things with working from home is having a dedicated room or space to that workspace. So where you're literally, when you walk in, yes, you're in work mode there. When you walk out, you leave it there.
Yeah.
So definitely having that space, I find being a little bit of a clean freak for me, that gets me into that mindset, is having a really clean environment, in the sense that I've got what I need, where I need it. There's not a lot of clutter. I think clutter in general, I guess it's getting a little bit, esoteric here, but from an energetic perspective, Nick, I find that clutter can be quite heavy for people, and it can also affect their sort of workflow and their brain flow as well.
Well, I mean, and also, again, getting a bit woohoo, what's going on in your external environment is probably going on in your head.
Exactly.
So if you've got a cluttered environment, and you've got cluttered thoughts and scattered thoughts as well, so it does reflect on your external environment.
Absolutely, Nick. And I think actually, if we go back to what we see a lot in our consultations with our clients, is that how often do we have people coming to us and saying, my concentration is shot, my short-term memory, I've got brain fog. This is a really common, if we look at the modern day woman, and men and women in general, this is such a common complaint, that they just feel that they can't work to what they believe is their optimal capacity. And I think that starts with your environment. I really think that starts with, how are you setting yourself up every day when you step into work? Because if there's already clutter and there's stuff everywhere, it's probably what's, as you said, Nick, going on in your brain. So I definitely, working from home personally, I make sure that my environment is set up in the way that I feel good going into that. But I think from a perspective too, with, laptops are so portable, in the sense that we feel like we can take them anywhere. We feel like we can take them into our bedroom and work. We feel that we could probably...
the odd working in bed.
Yep. There's one of the first things you definitely shouldn't be doing. So, so I've really had to create some boundaries around that as well, keeping my laptop in that workspace as much as possible, and really looking at clocking on and clocking off, so that I'm not taking my work into the rest of the evening, and that just starts to extend from, I'm on my laptop from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. So that's not sustainable, really.
No, it's not. And I guess, not everyone works in an office. So some people, work outdoors, in factories, in shops, all sorts of different things. So I guess the same sort of message translates no matter where you are, just ensuring that your environment is as orderly as possible. And then I guess we look at things, meals. So lunchtime, that's an important thing to focus on as well, because obviously we get to lunchtime and then that mid-afternoon slump is a huge thing for a lot of our clients. They say they get that fatigue mid-afternoon, they reach for the sugar or the cake or whatever it is to give them that extra energy. So what you're having at lunchtime can be really important as well, and that can then alleviate a lot of that afternoon slump also. So again, coming back to that macro balanced meals is really important as well. Not having high sugar meals, not having loads of any processed carbohydrates if you can help it. Making sure you're getting your proteins and your fats in there, just like at breakfast time. I think preparation is really good as well. So packing your lunches, particularly if you're in an area that it has, not much around as far as fresh food, but they have lots of, cafes and shops and things like that, makes it really easy to just run down and get something that might not be overly nutritious. So packing your meals, I think, it's a really big thing that I bang on about. So then you have the healthy meal there. There's no excuse to get anything unhealthy. And, if you're having that balance at lunchtime, as I said, you're less likely to get that mid-afternoon slump.
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. I think lunch is such an important meal that people really, I think, sometimes put that on the back burner. And if that's also something, I don't know if you're the same, Nick, but if I'm going into an office the next day, I prepare my lunch the night before. It's just almost, it's getting your mind frame into, okay, this is my preparation for the next day. So I'm ticking those boxes basically. I think another one is hydration across the day.
Huge, actually. Huge. How many times do we see clients that are having less than a litre of water a day?
Yeah.
And complaining of fatigue, of brain fog, fog, which I have right now.
Lots of brain fog.
And also cravings.
Yes.
Cravings for sugar and even just being hungry.
Yep.
And a lot of that comes back to being dehydrated.
Absolutely. And especially if you're someone who's had 3 coffees, well, it's a diuretic, so you're dehydrated before you even begin the day. So, I think hydration is one of the first things I look at as well. So,
And an easy fix for that is just I suggest a 1 litre bottle and just keeping the 1 litre bottle with you and try to aim to get to through 3 of those a day. So, I have sips throughout the day, and it's a good way to monitor how much you're drinking as well. So if you finish it and then fill it back up, you can keep track of how much you're drinking, because some people think that they're drinking more than they are. It's interesting to see sometimes they're drinking half a litre of water a day.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, people are chronically dehydrated. I think we see that mostly with our clients. So
definitely.
Yeah. And so what about, particularly for those people who might be in more of a sedentary job, Nick, how important movement is throughout the day, incidental movement?
Huge. You don't want to be sitting in one spot all day. And I think the jobs that we have, we are sitting a lot. And so I actually make a point of, after consultations, I always go for a lap. I go for a lap outside in our beautiful new environment that we have in our facility. The bush.
Yeah, nice.
Concrete bush. But, you just make do with what you've got. So getting outside, getting the daylight. Some people work in offices without windows as well. And so
ventilation.
So you need that fresh air. So movement is really key as far as when you're working long hours.
Yeah, even just standing desks. I know now that's just becoming the norm in a lot of workplaces, which is great. I think just getting up and standing and moving, that circulation. It's another thing that I think circulatory problems overall, people are really struggling with that as well. So how can you better inject that into your day? It doesn't take a lot. It's not strenuous. Yeah. We're not asking you to go for a run on your lunch break. It's just get up and get moving.
If you can, impressive.
Yeah. Exactly.
So when we've finished work for the day, that looks different to everybody. Some people finish work at 3 in the afternoon. Some people finish work at 7 at night. And then we also have parents that are finishing work. So it looks different to everybody. So I guess we could look at mothers. We haven't talked about them yet and the challenges they face trying to fit everything into their day. So they might be leaving work and going straight to school pickup, picking up the kids, racing them home, trying to feed them, take them to their extracurricular activities as well. So, what are some things that we can do around those times to make things a little bit easier, give the mothers a little bit of me time in that time frame as well to help improve their day.
Yeah, it's a great point, Nick, and I think it's one of those things where it's finding the time is really difficult. And I think we see that as often what a lot of women will report back to us, and they'll say, "I just don't have the time." You've got to find the time, even if it's half an hour. You can find that time, and you're also deserving of that. I think that's the other thing. Women particularly so often put themselves on the back burner, and we know that snowballs realistically. So it's one day turns into a week, turns into a few months, and they turn around and go, I don't do anything for myself anymore. So I think with, if we were to look at maybe, around children, so if you're putting your children into afternoon extracurricular activities after school, so maybe they're going to netball training or football training or whatever that might be, if that's an hour, or even often I think it's longer than that sometimes.
Yeah, the kids now are doing two hour sessions
easily.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think if you're needing to take them to something like that and you're waiting around for the kids before you pick them up and take them home again, finding what you can do in that space, so whether that's while they're training, you do some of your own exercise, go for a walk around the block. If it's, depending on if potentially they're in a, somewhere like a park or an area like that, you can make the most of what's available to you there. Or if it's not doing exercise, can you find some moments of mindfulness in that time? So time for you. So, and this is what we speak about a lot, I think, Nick, with our clients, is that when we say mindfulness and stress management, I think a lot of the time people think it just has to be meditation, or we've only been told that you have to become some incredible yogi guru and be this meditator that's, off this earth sort of thing. Yeah. Doesn't have to be that way.
No. It would be awesome.
It would be amazing. I mean,
I'd love to be able to levitate and do all that sort of stuff. Cross my knees over my shoulders.
Yeah, exactly, Nick. Yeah. So for all of us that aren't the yogis out there, what could mindfulness look like, Nick?
Well, I mean, because I say this a lot to clients, meditation is not just sitting on a cushion humming for an hour. Meditation, essentially, what that means is you're focusing on one thing. You're getting rid of the mental chatter and just calming your mind and being in the moment. So that can be anything that you enjoy doing. So meditation could be taking the dog for a walk. If you live near the beach, it could be going for a walk along the beach, reading a book. Crazy, but some women window shopping or something like that, something that they just enjoy and that they can be in the moment and go, oh, I've been doing this for an hour. I can't believe that time's gone. That's meditation. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't have to be sitting down, with your eyes closed for an hour. You just got to find what works for you and what relaxes you. And it's funny because a lot of women, you say to them, well, what do you enjoy doing, or what hobbies do you have? And they said, well, gee, I don't actually know anymore. I don't remember the last time I did something I enjoyed, or I haven't done a hobby since I was 20 because everything else gets in the way. And I think that's where we have to keep coming back to. You have to give yourself time. And I know we're not mothers. We don't sit here and claim that we know what mothers go through. But at the end of the day, if you don't put yourself first at some point throughout the day, you're not going to be 100% for the rest of your family.
That's right.
So, how often do we see it? Mothers come to us and they're exhausted and they're run off their feet and they're trying to do everything for everybody else and they forget about themselves. And if you sit there and say to them, essentially giving them permission to take the time, the look on their face is kind of a little bit like horror, mm-hmm. as in I don't understand, like no one has ever given me permission to take time for myself. And there might be dinner to cook, there might be the kids' washing to do, there might be all the housework to do when you get home, but you know what? It's still going to be there tomorrow, mm-hmm. and no one's going to have a breakdown over it. And at the end of the day, if you can spend that 1 hour while your kids are at their activities doing something for yourself, you're going to feel that much better to be able to face the rest of it anyway. So I think that that's a really important thing to remember for mothers, mm-hmm. because they do just forget about themselves. And then we see them at the end of it when they're completely exhausted, their health's gone downhill because they have not focused on themselves at all.
Yeah, I agree, Nick. And I think what I would say with that as well is actually for women to, or mothers or anyone realistically, is to ask for help when you need it.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. I think we feel like we have to take everything on, particularly mothers. Like you said, they're being everything to everyone, and they also then feel like they can't ask for help. They've got to do it all alone, Yeah. And I think that by speaking up and saying, I'm going to take this hour for me, that then starts to show everyone around you, your partner, your friends, your children, I'm prioritizing me, and that's okay. I'm allowed to do that. Mm-hmm. And people will follow that.
Yeah.
So the more that you do that, people will follow your actions, basically.
Yeah.
So I think we've got to, sometimes it's almost drawing the line in the sand, isn't it? And going, if today I can find half an hour for me, great. It's more than I found yesterday, realistically.
Yeah.
So,
and we teach people how to treat us. So if someone's demanding your time constantly, you're constantly giving to them, you're basically telling them it's okay. I will give you my time instead of giving myself that hour.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of just being, steadfast in what you want as well. And you're not asking them to, leave you alone for a week. It's an hour a day.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really important thing. So in that hour, do something that you love to do. Do some exercise. If you haven't had a chance to do any sort of movement for the rest of the day, that's when you do your movement. If you've got a dog, take your dog for a walk.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So, but don't go, okay, I've got an hour now, I'll go do that housework when no one's home. Don't do that.
Yeah, that can wait.
That can wait. It's always going to be there.
Yeah. I agree, Nick. And I guess this starts to flow into that sort of afternoon period, switching off from work. What are we doing now in the evenings? Which is another, when we're, start to look at routines, our nighttime routine, our evening routine is just as important.
Well, it is. And as we said at the beginning, what we do at night really does have a huge impact on how we wake up the next day, go into our day, and then the cycle continues. So it is really important to look at what you're doing at night time and ways that you can get that balance there and get yourself wound down so that you can set yourself up for the next day.
Let's talk about winding down though. What's one of the biggest things that women do, or men, to wind down after a day of work? Or anything, realistically. It doesn't even have to be work.
Wow, the old alcohol comes into play, doesn't it? Quite a lot.
It definitely does, doesn't it, Nick? Yeah.
Particularly since COVID, we've heard a lot of that increase in alcohol consumption.
Yeah.
That could well be because you're, cooped up with people that you have never been cooped up with before for that amount of time.
Yeah.
But that's probably another story.
Yeah.
That's a whole other topic.
Exactly. But that becomes quickly a habit, doesn't it?
It does.
How I think so often we see that what seems as one harmless glass of wine turns into two, turns into nearly a bottle on a Tuesday night. And that's something that I find women initially, they might feel that effect of calm, and it does. Alcohol to an extent will calm them, or they will feel that calmness, but then it's the flow-on effect from drinking that alcohol. And that starts to wreak havoc on circadian rhythms, neurotransmitter production, your liver function, health overall. Like we can go into the many effects of alcohol. But also I find if we're using alcohol as a means to wind down at the end of the day, that's a coping mechanism that's not healthy.
Yeah.
Is it? So
not healthy.
Yeah.
So what are some of the other things that we can do? And I guess we've got to look at, again, if people are exercising at night. So as we said earlier, there's morning people and there's night people. We train in the morning. Some people love to train at night. So what can we do around that so that we're still allowing our body to wind down before we're getting to bed at night? So, I have clients that go to the gym sort of late afternoon, early evening, and they do a really intense workout. So they've really activated their stress response there. Their cortisol is shot up. Yep. So when they get home, what are things we can do to start to calm that down so that we're not having to sit up for 4 hours to get their cortisol levels back down so that we can start to produce our melatonin so we can get to sleep.
So I guess that's where, we look at a multitude of things. When we, Nick, we'd look at what are they having as a meal after that exercise session. So, before bed, if they're particularly someone who's coming home, 8, 9 o'clock at night, what are they eating then? Are we looking at, can you actually optimize your meal before you go to the gym? Yeah. Maybe you're just having something like a protein shake after that when you get home before bed. So diet is a huge thing around that. I think sometimes supplements. So I'm sure we both definitely look at certain supplements that will calm the nervous system, particularly after doing exercise in the evening. Yeah. One of the most important ones is magnesium.
Magnesium's huge.
In particular, even looking into the forms of magnesium. So something like the, magnesium glycinate might be better. So this is where we even can start to get really individualized with people's treatment protocols. So magnesium, sometimes certain herbs, Nick, I'm sure there's different herbs that you like to use for that calming effect at nighttime. Even looking at, it's one of the most simple ways to get, I guess, the benefits of some of those herbs in without even sometimes taking a supplement necessarily is tea.
Well, I prescribe tea quite a lot because, obviously we have clients on supplements and sometimes it's a matter of not over-supplementing.
Agreed.
You don't want to be taking 20 capsules a day. So teas can be a really effective way of helping with the balance as well. So, and I do a lot of medicinal teas, being a herbalist, but just even a general chamomile tea can really make a difference.
Yeah. It's so interesting. It like chamomile, it's one of those ones that's so common, isn't it? And I was literally listening to something the other day on the use of chamomile for the calming effects, how it can start to work on GABA receptors, all of those sorts of things, all of the tech we can go into. But you can literally go to your chamomile tea, you can pick it up, get a good organic one from somewhere.
And not in a tea bag.
But 2 to 3 cups of that can give you the benefits that we even sometimes look for from certain supplements. So it's not that the tea is any less in terms of its actions in the body, and that might be all you need. I think as well in the evening for me, I use tea as it's like a ritual, realistically. It's something that for me, it signals to my brain after I've had dinner, I'm winding down for the night, I enjoy my cup of tea, and that's getting me into that, that calm state before bed. So when we look at sleep hygiene as a whole, tea can be such an important part of that.
Yeah. And like you said, the actual ritual of making the tea itself is a mindfulness exercise, isn't it? So you're calming down with that. It's talking about sleep hygiene, as you just mentioned there, Dan, is huge. So what's the biggest thing we do at night time when we're sort of winding down? Put the TV on, get the phone out, have a bit of a scroll, which is one of the worst things you can do when you're trying to get that circadian rhythm balanced and, get that cortisol level down, because that light basically activates the cortisol again. So you're activating that stress response. And so how many people are saying, but I can't get to sleep without the TV on. So they put the TV on and then it becomes, a vicious cycle, because then they can't get to sleep. So the TV is on all night. And I have clients that have the TV on all night and quite loud, because they can't sleep without the noise and without the light in the room. So they're really struggling to sleep.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of the biggest ones, really, isn't it?
I think screens, I think, and also what I've started to think about more, Nick, is aside from screens as the effects that we know with the blue light and how it affects our circadian rhythm and neurotransmitter production, but even when really we think about our evenings, for a lot of us, when we're going home after a day of work or whatever we've done that day, it's probably the time in our day where we're connecting with the people in our environment, whether that be our partner, our kids, friends, whatever that is, whoever you're living with. Maybe, if you're living alone, we'll go into that soon. But that's also where I think sometimes if we're constantly on our screens and we're not distinguishing when to be off of them, when to be on them, we're not connecting with those people either. So that's another thing I think from a health perspective, where I see that people can be lacking in that connection overall. It's like, when was the last time you had a good conversation with your partner? When was the last time you asked your kids what they did that day and how they're going? I think in our modern world, and this is, the Modern Woman's podcast, is that we've got to be really mindful of what our screens, phones, laptops, TVs are doing to, or taking away from our lives in other areas.
And I guess looking at the modern life at the moment, a lot of us are isolated because we're working from home, or, everything is remote now, or, via the internet or Zoom. So we are losing that sense of community for the most part during the day anyway. So then if we're getting home at night and we're still not interacting, it actually can affect our health.
I agree, Nick. And I think that's so as well, if we look at people that might live alone. So, and particularly with what's happening at the moment in, like you said, Nick, we're in quite an isolated world, realistically. It's that sense of community that I think you've got to find ways to build. So if you're sort of switching off from your work day and you're just going home it's just you, and you might probably going home to watch a TV show or something like that, that's fine. But what can you be doing where you're connecting with other people? As a woman, are you going to go to a yoga class and meet people there? Or, is it a hobby that you're starting, some nights during the week that you can go and do where you're meeting people and connecting with people? I think that's another thing that overall, from a day-to-day routine, we can definitely be doing more of.
Yeah. And then that comes back to that your you time as well.
Yep.
Not only getting out there and connecting with other people, but you're getting that time, that relaxation time, doing your hobbies, doing a little bit of light exercise, that sort of thing. So it all sort of comes around as to bringing back that balance to your day as well.
Yeah, definitely. So what about dinner? How do we find a way to to approach the dinner struggle? Because I think, particularly with families, how often do we hear women are cooking 4 different dinners?
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Who's got time to stand in the kitchen for about 3 hours at night? I don't.
Well, no, I don't. I actually don't do that. I don't have a family, but I don't do that. I think that in itself is a problem, and I think that we have to look at, if you're cooking 4 different meals for everybody, it comes back again to that spreading yourself very thin and, allowing people to get what they want, and you're not, it doesn't work for you, you're still allowing it. So unless there is specific, allergies and things like that, I guess some people would have that you have to be mindful of, you can pretty much probably pull it back a little bit and maybe just amend it so you can all eat similar meals. So you're not doing 4 different meals and, giving this child this food because it won't eat the other one, and then the partner doesn't want to eat that, and you're on a diet, so you're eating something completely different. So that becomes a stress in itself.
It does,
which then can affect your sleep.
Absolutely.
Which then affects how you wake up, which then affects your whole day again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the little things that you might not relate back to affecting your entire day, they all do. They all contribute.
Yeah.
So, dinner is it's the bane of everybody's life. What are we going to have for dinner? All that sort of thing. So planning is really good. And I know we've spoken about this in another podcast, one of the earlier ones. Having a meal, like setting up your meal plans for the week. So it doesn't have to be exact, but just having a bit of an idea, sitting down on the weekend and just writing out what you're going to have every night. And you can if you've got kids, get the kids involved.
Yep.
What do they want to have? And you can start to make it a little bit more of a family thing.
Yeah.
So you have an idea of what you're going to be having throughout the week, so you're not spending an hour deciding and then running down the shop at the last minute and buying just processed stuff because you can't be bothered.
That's right, yeah.
So, planning out and then picking, an hour on the weekend to go and do your shopping.
Yeah.
So you've got all your essentials and most of the things you need for the week. Obviously you can't get everything, but if you've got all the basics there, then you're not having to, again, that alleviates the whole having to buy or buying things that maybe aren't as nutritious as they could be because you have all the nutritious food there. So that's a start.
Yeah, definitely, Nick. And I think I think planning, particularly for dinners, is such an important thing because it is one of those things that if depending on how the day goes, we could have an extremely busy day. If we haven't really thought about dinner, it's that, we get to dinner time and a lot of the time people will either skip dinner or they'll have something cheap, easy, convenient. Takeaway.
Uber Eats.
Uber Eats, which is just expensive.
I've never got. I have to say I've never got Uber Eats.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
You're not missing out on much.
No, I think because everywhere I've lived, it's been difficult to deliver it. It's probably been a good thing.
Yeah, but that's exactly it, Nick. I think that's the fallback. So people get to the end of the day and go, I just couldn't be bothered. And then they have something that's not really nutritious. It's not really, supporting their health overall. And that's actually a habit that a lot of people can fall into. So I think planning dinner specifically, or at least having some idea of dinner, is always important. I also think as well, I have a number of clients, to be honest, Nick, where more of those convenient options is something that they're looking for. And so I guide them on, okay, well, there are actually meal services out there that we can still look at that are supportive in terms of their macro balance, their whole foods. We look at the ingredients and go, that's something that I would, as a nutritionist, tick off on. Yeah. And if that makes your life easier and you know that you've got a nutritious dinner when you get home at nighttime, then great. If that's something you fall back to a few times in the week, that's another option. So this is where it has to work for you. Yeah. Some people hate meal delivery services. Don't do that. Some people love to cook night to night. If you want to cook as you are, great. Some people want to prep at the start of the week and have some dinners done for the week ahead. So find what works for you, but have some sort of plan. Yeah. Always have some sort of plan.
Definitely. And look, I'm a nutritionist as well, and I hate cooking, to be honest.
Yeah.
Hate it. Hate it. So I do meal prep on a Sunday.
Yep.
And then, I might do a midweek prep. And the other trick that I use is when I cook my meals at night, I just make a double batch and then that's my lunch the next day as well. So that can alleviate the lunch issue also. So sort of planning ahead can be really effective. But you're exactly right, Dan, what works for you. So if you love to cook a family, get down and cook a family meal from scratch, awesome. If you hate it, like you said, there's some really good food services out there now.
Really
ready-made meals and things that are great. So there's definitely ways around it. It's not just a matter of if you're not cooking, you're getting takeaway because there's a lot of other options now. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So we've had dinner.
Yeah.
And then we're winding down. So I guess then what we do is we look at the bedroom environment, because that can be really a big factor in how well we're actually sleeping and doing things as well.
Definitely, Nick.
Bedroom activities.
Yes, exactly. So the health and the well-being of our bedroom environment, realistically. But I think this comes back to sleep hygiene. We're always talking about this with our clients.
Yeah.
And it comes back to, I guess, as well, what I was talking about, space. So your work environment, cleanliness of that, the organisation of that. I think our bedroom is one that we can't overlook that as well. No. That brings me back to as well, I'm going to just put this in there, making your bed in the morning. So important.
Oh, how can people not make their bed?
How can you not make your bed?
I can't leave the house without making my bed.
Exactly. No, it just doesn't feel right.
No.
Because you want to come back to, at the end of the day, a made bed and a clean room.
Yeah.
So I think, definitely bedroom environment's a big one because that can totally, from an energy perspective, have an effect on your energy, can't it?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Again, it's like with the cluttered office, cluttered bedroom. How are you going to sleep in a cluttered bedroom? So, I guess we look at that. So making sure that you have a clean room.
Yeah.
And then other things. So ventilation is huge.
Yeah.
We're making sure you've got ventilation in the room. If you do have light outside, so if you're living in the cities, making sure you have things like blockout blinds because you don't want that light coming in. Again, it's very similar to screens. Making sure you're not too hot or too cold in the bedroom can be really important as well. So all of these factors really do come into play when we're looking at getting quality sleep. And they may sound silly, but they all do contribute to improved sleep quality.
They do. And I think even as well, Nick, what I bring up with clients sometimes is your mattress. Have you had your mattress for 20 years and haven't changed it? Is that something that's having an effect on your sleep? Your pillows. What are you sleeping in?
Please, people, change your pillows every 6 months.
Change your pillows.
I can't. You don't know what's in those pillows after that.
You have no idea.
I've been to places where people have had pillows for 20 years. I'm not going there. No. It's not good.
Yeah. No.
But these are the things that people don't think about.
No, that's it, because we get so busy with our lives. The last thing we turn around and think about is, how long have I had that mattress for and those pillows for? And
there's a whole colony of creatures in there.
Exactly. Sheets. I think as well, particularly in Queensland, coming into the warmer months, things that have good ventilation, maybe bamboo or good quality cotton sheets, something like that. So they're all things that I think we start to look into in terms of that sleep hygiene, that bedroom environment. I don't know, like even in terms of the atmosphere, the environment, if you've got a partner, you don't want that to be stifling that, do you? You know, like it could be a Wednesday night. Light some candles. Do something a little bit different.
Yeah, guys, do something nice.
Guys.
Be romantic.
This isn't just up to the women, by the way. This is also...
No, so not up to the women.
Yeah.
I feel like life is always up to the women these days. Men aren't putting in anywhere near enough effort. Sorry, I know it's the end of the podcast, but I'm going to man bash. No, I'm really not. But
we'll leave that for another day.
We'll leave that for another day.
Yeah.
But that's really important. And I guess when we're talking about that sort of thing, intimacy, again, is part of our lives and part of our days. Yep. And how often do we hear clients saying they have no intimacy because they have no libidos? Yep. Libidos is just flatlined. And so what we've been talking about all day is stress management, mindfulness, having routines, taking time for yourself. All of this does help to reduce our being in our sympathetic nervous system. So the longer that we're sitting in that sympathetic nervous system dominance, we're highly stressed. What happens? We're in our fight or flight. Yeah. Our libido is going to drop straight off.
Of course it is. So, the last thing we're going to want to be doing is turning to our partner and going,
right, hey there.
Yeah, hey there, how you going? Like, we don't feel like that.
I'd rather have a bottle of wine.
100%,
and that's what we hear all the time, right? Yeah. So this, if nothing else, if you want to improve your libido, doing a lot of the things that we've said today can really improve that. So I think that's a really important part of it.
I think so too, Nick. I think it's reprioritizing that. I think a lot of women, once again, and probably men, I would say, have put that on the back burner. And it's almost then, I think it sometimes falls into a little bit of they feel guilty about that. There's probably some shame associated with that. And partnerships and people in partnerships, whether it's marriage or not willing to then speak up and go, hey, this is something that I want to reprioritize again in my life. Like, tell me anyone that feels bad about doing that, realistically.
I know, right?
So from a libido perspective, we all want good, healthy libido. We want that intimacy with our partner.
We all want good sex.
We all want good sex. Of course we do. Like, it's one of those things that in terms of our health, that's one of the most important things when we look from a connection point of view, intimacy, those sorts of things. If you've got a good sex life.
Yeah. Well, we're all human. And like you said, it's part of the connection. So, and I think a lot of people do let that drop off too much.
Yeah.
And it can affect you. So, it's a really important part of the day. So, I mean, not the day. It's not like everyone has to be doing it every day. Although, why not?
I mean, if you are, great.
Yeah, go you.
It doesn't have to just be at night time.
It could be any time of the day. Oh, we could go on forever about this.
We really could.
But we won't.
Yeah, that's another story.
Okay, we could do a sex podcast. That'd be good, wouldn't it?
That'd be great. We'll get Elizma into that.
Elizma would love it. She would love it. So would Vanessa.
But yeah, so to sort of wrap up the sleep hygiene, Nick, I think, some of the boring things, the common things, check your ventilation, your mattress, all of those things. But also then from a sleep hygiene perspective, what are you doing before bed? If you've put the kids to bed, do you have time for you and your partner? If you are single, do you have time for you? Connecting with you? Is that a time where you might, whether it's meditation or something, or you listen to a podcast, this podcast, you listen to...
No pressure. But, hey.
It's taking time for you and going, I'm going to go to bed feeling good about myself and what I've done today. I think that's the other thing. It's if we're going to bed in a positive mindset to some level, we're going to be waking up feeling quite good.
Yeah.
It's all about what you're doing the night before will affect how you start your next day.
Yeah.
So
I think the overall theme is there's so much we can do, like we said at the start, there's so much you can do for your health just in your lifestyle stuff.
Yeah.
So, and I think routine is a huge thing.
Yeah.
So routine can really make a big difference. So to see improvement in your health, you have to be consistent.
Yeah.
So for the long term, nothing's going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
But if you do these small changes every single day, then you can start to see improvement. It's like, I'll take it back to training because that's what I've done for a long time. You don't go into a gym for one day and expect to get great results. It takes time, and it's like everything. So if you're making these small changes every day, it can really make huge improvements in your health without doing anything, add the extra things. Just starting with this can make a really big difference, but you have to be consistent.
Yeah.
And you have to be on it. So setting up a routine can be really helpful in getting you there. So even if we start by implementing a few of these changes throughout the day, it can start to make improvements.
Yeah.
So, and then you can build on it from there. So you don't have to look at the whole day and change everything if you're not doing any of the things that we talked about today, but just starting to change, even say your morning routine to begin with, or your evening routine, and you're going to feel better either throughout the day, or if you change your evening one, you're going to wake up feeling a lot better. So just start gradually.
That's right, Nick. And I find, we always come back to telling our clients it's finding what you enjoy as well, finding what works for you. So in your morning routine, what will be the thing that you look forward to and you feel good from doing? In the evening, what are you going to feel good from doing then? How do you want your day to look? I think that's the other thing to get women and men to start to really, I guess, look at your life and go, where can I make changes that are going to benefit me? And how do I want my life to flow? I think so often we see that people are so stuck in old habits and old patterns and saying this is just how it is. And it doesn't have to be that way. And I think as practitioners, we see that some of the biggest impacts on people's health is their lifestyle. It's the imbalances from a dietary perspective, from a sleep perspective, from an exercise movement perspective. They're the things that we go back to. We look at someone's day and we go, okay, what can you start to change here? Because this is probably having an effect on your health overall and your well-being overall. So always find what really works for you, and you'll know that. It's in the same way that, people start a diet and they go, I hate this diet. I hate eating this way. Don't do that.
And how often do we hear that? People they persist because, and like we said earlier, it worked in the past, but you have to adapt and you have to, like you said, listen to your body, do what feels right for you. But it's so true what you said, Dan. This is the foundation, and we can give you supplements and we can do all these other things around that. But if this isn't balanced, the supplements are, again, they're going to only work so well, they're not going to be fixing anything. So this is just as important as any supplement protocol. So making these changes, and even get up in the morning or before you go to bed at night, set an intention for the next day. So, okay, tomorrow I'm going to drink 3 liters of water. Or I'm going to get up and do 30 minutes of movement before breakfast. Just set one intention and then build on it from there. And before you know it, 6 months down the track, you've completely changed your whole lifestyle and you haven't really noticed it because it's been a gradual thing.
That's right. And that along the way you've been committing to you. So it's taking that back. It's making that commitment to yourself and your health and going, no, I can make these changes. It doesn't have to be drastic. It doesn't have to be a complete life overhaul. No one's asking you to do that, but we're asking you to start prioritizing you and putting you first.
And that's what this podcast really was all about, wasn't it? The modern woman. We wanted something to, because we know the challenges that the modern woman has, and we see so many more women going down with their health and they've got so much more stress, and now they're working full time and they're trying to raise children, looking after their partners or whatever situation that you have. And we try to just get the point across that it is about taking some of that power back and that control of your life and putting yourself first, because your health is the most important thing. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything.
Exactly.
So if your health is on track, then everything else in your life can start to balance out and you can look after the people in your life a lot better. So really just got to bang on about it. Put yourself first.
Yeah, put you first. If you can be the best version of you, you're being the best version for everyone else around you.
Exactly.
It all starts with you.
Yeah. So. I think that's a good ending.
Yeah, I think it is, Nick. I've really enjoyed talking about this today,
something a little bit different.
So a bit lighter.
Yeah, let us know what you think about it.
Yeah, definitely.
We might do a few more of these, maybe. Yeah. All right.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Let's go. Okay. All right. Spit. Sorry. All right. Wait. God. Just give me 1 sec now. You just sprung it on me. Okay. I'm gonna laugh. Okay. Don't help me. Let's talk about sex, baby. Okay.
Routine.
It's really important to have a routine.
We're so close.
So close. All right. Okay.
All right.
On
okay.
it.
Okay.
It's really okay. Routine. I can't think of the word. Man, that was hard.
She got that. Sorry, guys.
So basically, that's what a day looks like. So basically, that's what a good healthy day looks like.
A good healthy day.
Yeah.
Well, I think also too sometimes, Nick, it's when we look at our days. Oh my God. I was doing really well.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, all right. Okay. I was waiting for you to break.
I was good. Poker face was on.
I know. All right, okay. And clear.
Okay. All right. Well, sometimes I think as well, Nick, it's also
I can't look at you.
Jesus.